Funnels still work for paid traffic in 2026. If you're watching this, you either have tried a sales funnel that didn't quite work, you're thinking about building one, or maybe you have one that's working, but you can't scale the ad spend on it. Every time that you do, it either stops working or you're just paying way too much to get a sale and it's just not practical. Now, I have been building, managing, optimizing sales funnels since the beginning of the internet. So I know a little bit about this. I've worked in probably thousands of businesses and hundreds of different industries. And that qualifies me to answer this question. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, if you're watching this, you're probably thinking, well, 2026 things have changed dramatically and maybe blank type of sales funnel doesn't work, webinars don't work anymore, low tickets. And there's a lot of people out there who sell you products on how to build sales funnel or sell you like sales funnel build services and will say webinar funnels are dead or low ticket funnels are dead or call booking funnels are dead and all this nonsense. And so you have to kind of figure out by trial and error what really works because there's so many people selling courses on sales funnels and funnel softwares and technologies that you don't know who's telling the truth and who isn't. Not only that, being behind the scenes, because I'm a partner in my agency and also a marketing coach who spends like most of his time during the week looking at and troubleshooting sales funnels, helping people improve their messaging, helping people get better results, reviving dead funnels and turning them into 6 and 7 figure funnels, which I have done many, many, many times. I know what's actually going on. And more importantly, I know a lot of these people out there who are claiming about all this money that they're making and they're not telling you the whole story. Right. Either they're telling you like I made $100,000 a month, but they don't tell you that they spent $100,000 in ad spend too, so they didn't make anything, or they even lost money. And so I'm going to absolutely demystify this subject today based on the hands-on in the trenches, pressure tested experience that I have in actually looking at the back end of funnels and seeing what works, what doesn't work, why it works. And if you want to break out of your warm network, right? If all your sales or most of your sales come from people you already know and they're hard won, it's almost like you're a hunter gatherer out there, kind of hunting your prey down or gathering the food for the day, and then you gather enough for the day, but you have to go out the next day. It's tiresome if most of your sales are only coming from your warm network, and then you got to sell, tell, and explain. It's probably chewing up a lot of your time and energy. And not only that, when you're in that position, you can literally feel in your nervous system, you can feel your income ceiling every single time a big expense comes out of your account that month. You feel this boom, like a punch in the gut, right? And you're like, what's going to happen if if this client leaves or if this client quits or if this, my sales funnel stops working as well as it should or whatever it is. You're worrying about everything because you always feel like there's this tiger running behind you about to devour you. And that's no place to grow a business. You can survive doing that, but you're very, very fragile. And a lot of people who are in that position end up going back to jobs, which is, I know, is not what you want. So, the question is, do sales funnels still work in 2026? And the answer is yes, but it depends. And I'm going to tell you exactly what I mean in just a second here. But first of all, there's really only four funnel types. There's only four. There's a webinar funnel. Now, a webinar funnel can be called a challenge or a workshop, but it's anything where you're making a long form presentation uh, live. That's the key element to sell something at the end, right? That's what I mean by webinar funnel. So don't think, well, workshop funnels, that doesn't count. Challenge funnels, that doesn't count. If it's a live presentation, long form, where you're selling something or doing a call booking at the end, I'm going to call that a webinar funnel for the sake of this discussion. That's the first type. That's the first category. Don't let these people like fool you who are like, webinar funnels are dead. Try workshop funnels instead, or webinar funnels are dead. Try challenge funnels. They're just playing a word game with you to sell them their stuff, right? Webinar funnels are the first one. Second type is a video sales letter funnel. Now, this is a terminology that has been so like confused and misunderstood by people that I'll have to explain what I mean by VSL funnel. But first, let me tell you a story about a guy I know who built a VSL funnel, a single VSL funnel. He owned a furniture store up in Canada. This is a guy who me and one of my friends worked with in optimizing his funnel and his paid ads. And he started out just making, I think, like $100,000 a year in profit with his furniture business. He used that money to build, get the funnel built, get the ad pay, spend and all that stuff. And the last I heard from him is he's a venture capitalist now who is worth about $100 million. Okay. That one funnel that we built for him, we actually turned it into an entire ecosystem. It took a lot of testing, a lot of refining. He ended up spending about $10,000 in ad spend before he started really making money with it. But he got it to where it was making about 30 million. And then I think he sold the company. I haven't talked to him in a few years, but I could tell you many, many stories like that. But a VSL funnel is basically where when you land on the page, you watch a video, and in the video, it's a longer form video and it sells the product or the call booking at the end of it. That's a VSL funnel. Again, you can call this all kinds of stuff, but it's mainly where the video content is doing the selling. In other words, there's not a lot of long copy. And usually in a VSL funnel, the best way to get someone to buy something from it is to have them watch the video and don't reveal anything about the product at all until like you're actually talking about the product. And that only works for a certain type of client, a certain type of prospect. And we'll talk about that in a second, but that's a VSL funnel. Okay. Webinar funnel, video funnel. We'll just call it video funnel. Quiz funnels. I know some people are thinking quiz funnels. A quiz funnel is really all you do is change the front end thing to a quiz, and then it directs them to a webinar, or then it directs them to a VSL, or then it directs them to the third type of funnel we'll talk about. Okay, so don't be fooled by all this terminology out there. There's really only four types. There's webinar funnels, VSL funnels, and people who do webinar funnels and record them and call it an evergreen webinar, that's a VSL. Okay, that's no longer a live presentation. So when I say VSL funnel, I'm talking about what people call a evergreen webinar funnel. Okay, a recorded, it's not live, it's long form. The primary delivery method is video. Those are incredibly effective only for a certain type of prospect, though. So the third type of funnel is what is called a tripwire or low ticket funnel. This is also called all kinds of other things. Sometimes it's an e-commerce funnel. But the basic idea is that they buy a lower priced product that is kind of like a step into the next thing that you're selling. Like, in other words, the tripwire or the low ticket offer or whatever it is, that's not your main product that you're making a lot of your money off of. It's the segue into them buying other things. That's really important. That's going to be really, really important later on if you've got a funnel that's quote losing money. I'll talk about why that's important. So we have webinar, VSL, tripwire funnel. I'm going to call it a tripwire, low ticket, whatever. Fourth type of funnel is a retargeting funnel. And this is where a person's already seen your offer. They've been through maybe your whole webinar, been through your whole VSL. They've been to the checkout page of your tripwire and they just didn't buy yet, but they got all the way to the end. And then you're just going to retarget them. Retargeting funnels are probably one of the most misused funnels out there. And I'll tell you why in a little bit, but those are the four types. They're the webinar, the VSL, the tripwire, and the retargeting funnel. Now you're probably thinking, well, what about this type of funnel? And there's some other name in your head. I guarantee it's going to fit into one of those four categories. Maybe you say it's a lead magnet funnel. A lead magnet funnel is really just you're putting a lead magnet in front of a VSL or maybe a lead magnet in front of a tripwire, which doesn't work so well. And I'll explain why. And it's not very smart to do. And I'll talk about that later. Now, sometimes you just do a lead magnet funnel and that's it. That's not smart, right? You don't want to just give a person a lead magnet. You want to lead them into one of these types of funnels after that. So lead magnet funnel, don't be distracted by that. There are only these four types. Call booking funnels, let's talk about that for a second. People sometimes say, well, what about a call booking funnel? A call booking funnel will still fit into one of these categories. You either have a webinar that goes to a book call, a VSL that goes to a book call, or a sales page, a written sales page that goes to a book call. That, or you're retargeting people to your whatever it is, right? Call booking. So those are the only four types you need to understand. Everything else fits into those four categories. And it's really important that you understand that for a reason that I reveal in my book, The Anti-Fragile Sales System, that we'll unpack here. But first, I want to talk about the top 3 reasons funnels fail. Okay. This is what you really need to hear because there's a guy out there. I'm not going to mention his name, but a lot of people know that I don't like this guy. I think he's a snake oil salesman, but he'll tell you that you're one funnel away from success. And that's BS. Number one, he didn't build his business that way. I followed him since the beginning. And number two, he admits in one of his books that the only reason he got people to believe that is so that they'd buy his software. So don't listen to that. That's nonsense. It is true that one funnel can dramatically change your life, but this whole idea of funnel hacking is probably one of the most foolish things that you can try to do to make your business successful. And I'm going to tell you why. I know I'm like dropping a lot of breadcrumbs here, but there's a lot coming in this video, and you're going to have some practical takeaways for exactly what you need to do, whether your funnel's stuck and can't scale, whether you turned the ads off because it's not working or it stopped working, or you just don't know which one to build and you've got a bunch of funnels built all over the place and this person's telling you this funnel and this person you're trying like which funnel works for my business. You're going to know exactly which one's going to work by the end of this live presentation. Okay, so let's talk about what actually causes funnels to fail. The number one reason is a person uses the wrong type of funnel for their business. This is, I actually heard a so-called expert one time say there's a bunch of different funnels. You really just pick the one that's best for you, or it's more of a preference thing. It's kind of like vanilla ice cream versus chocolate ice cream. That's dangerous advice. I'm not going to tell you who gave that, but you probably heard of him before. That is dumb. Okay. You need a different type of funnel based on one ingredient of your audience, based on one factor that I'm going to tell you about in a second. But if you get this wrong, it doesn't matter how good your offer is, how good your messaging is. It doesn't matter if you're targeting the right audience. You can get everything else right and you can build the funnel exactly as I teach in my book, The Anti-Fragile Sales System, and you can still fail. Maybe you'll make a couple sales, but the funnel will not be able to scale. There will be a pressure point where it'll fail. So you need to make sure you match the funnel to one factor, and it has nothing to do with your offer. People will say things like, well, you use webinar funnels for more expensive stuff. You use VS. Don't listen to any of that stuff. It has nothing to do with the price point, has really nothing to do with your offer. Picking the best funnel for your business is all about understanding where most of your cold audience is in their awareness about the problem that you help them solve or the type of solution you offer. I'll say that again, then I'll explain exactly what it means. Picking the right funnel for your business is all about understanding where most of your cold audience is, people who have never heard of you before, where most of them are likely to be in their awareness about the problem you help them solve and the type of solution you offer. This is absolutely huge. Now, this is all in my book, The Anti-Fragile Sales System. If you want to take a deep dive, it's in chapter 3, right? If you want to really like immerse yourself in it, I'm going to have the audio book coming out on my YouTube channel pretty soon here. But that's the first thing you need to understand. Now, you're probably thinking, Seth, that sounds really vague and really philosophical. I'm going to unpack it here, and I'm going to ask you a couple questions that you're going to be able to look at your business and say, this is the type of funnel I need. But first, I'll break them down one at a time. A webinar funnel is for what I call stage 1 prospects. I'll tell you what those are in a second. Webinar is for stage 1. So write these down if you're taking notes. Webinar, live funnels, whatever you want to call it, are for stage 1 prospects. Now, you can sell people who are in these other stages I'm about to tell you with a webinar funnel, but it's not going to be as effective. Or if you have a stage 1 prospect, like if most of your cold audience is in the stage 1 of awareness and you try a VSL funnel or a tripwire funnel, you're going to bomb. You're going to bomb big time. And when you try to retarget it, they're still not going to buy. If you get this wrong, it will not matter. Okay, that's how important this is. And if you've ever launched a really successful, what you thought was going to be a really successful VSL funnel that maybe worked for somebody else really well, and it didn't work, or it scaled to a certain point and didn't work, or if you tried that with a tripwire funnel, or what we call a call booking funnel that was on a sales page, or a VSL, any of these other types of funnels, and it bombed, either you did something wrong with the funnel, or you made one of the other mistakes I'm going to talk about in a second, or you just mismatched it. Most of your people are in a stage 1, and if most of them are in a stage 1, it doesn't matter what other type of funnel you build or how good you are. You may get a couple sales, but you're not going to get very many. So webinar funnels, live funnels, are for stage 1 people. Now, what is a stage 1 prospect? A stage 1 prospect is someone who has the problem that you help them solve. They have it, but they're only really aware of the symptoms, and the symptoms may not be that serious yet. They're kind of starting to pick up momentum. Like the symptoms are starting to get gradually, slowly worse, and they're going to get exponentially worse until they reach a crisis point where they're going to want to buy something, right, to solve the problem. That's a stage 1 person. But think about that. If they're only aware of the symptoms and they don't really realize how personal they are, how critical they are and how urgent they are. In other words, they're not thinking, oh my God, the fact that I have this symptom, they're not even calling it a symptom, they're probably calling it the problem, means that about 3 months down the road, I'm going to be facing this. I'll give you a really quick example. Let's say someone wakes up one morning with a little tinge of pain in their Achilles tendon. This happened to me several years ago, and I didn't think much of it. But the next day it was worse, and the next day it was worse, and the next day it was worse. And a few weeks later, I couldn't walk. I was bedridden. And I was bedridden for a couple years, right? But I was in stage 1 when that pain was starting to get worse. These same type of symptoms can show up in a person's business, in a person's relationships, in a person's financial life. The symptom starts out as something like, that's kind of strange. It's getting worse. What's going on? That's where they are. Now, I didn't know at the time that it had to do with my gut health and my nervous system. And if someone had come to me that day and said, here's why you need to hire a gut health expert, and send a call booking funnel to me, or like a tripwire offer on how to reset your gut health, I would have just ghosted it, because I had no idea that it had anything to do with gut health. I didn't even know what the name of the problem was, and I certainly wasn't looking for a solution. And if I was, I certainly wasn't settled on a certain type of solution or a category. A solution for that problem might be a functional doctor. It might be a cleanse. It might be a reset. It might be a workout program. In other words, there's many different categories of solution. And if any one of those people would come to me with, a low ticket offer, even if it was a great offer, or a call booking to get on a call with them, I would have absolutely ignored them, because I wasn't even thinking about the problem. I couldn't name it. And so I couldn't say, well, I need this type of solution. And even if I knew the problem, I might be thinking, well, do I need a functional doctor? Do I need a workout program? So in other words, there's multiple categories of solutions that I'm looking for. And that's stage 2. Stage 2 people, they are aware of what the problem is. They may even know the name of the problem, but they're not looking for a specific category of solution. In other words, I might have said, well, I know now that I have reactionary arthritis, and I need a functional doctor, right? That would have been me settled on a category of solution. That's not a stage 2 person. A stage 2 person is like, okay, I had this problem, I want to solve it. But when they're searching for solutions, they're not searching for a functional doctor. They're not searching for a workout program. They're open to all of them. Are you starting to see the problem here? If you take a VSL funnel and you say, hey, let's explore the different ways to solve this problem, what works, what doesn't work, what's dangerous and what's not. And they're thinking, well, I don't have that problem, but they have the symptoms of it. That's a stage 1 person. Can you see why the VSL isn't going to work for them? It's because, or the tripwire funnel, you send them directly to an offer that sells a certain category of product, and they're going to ignore it because they have no idea. Or the VSL funnel, you're talking about the actual problem, which is the right way to sell it. You're saying, here's the way to solve this problem, and you're giving them information instead of selling them. And then you gradually move them towards the close. That's what a VSL does. Proper VSL does. Some people, by the way, they'll put a little video on top of their tripwire funnel and say, that's my VSL. That's not a VSL. A VSL is where all the content of the presentation is delivered only in the video, and they don't actually see the offer until the end of the video. You might be thinking, why would I do that if I'm selling something? But think about this. Let's say that you have one of these stage 2 prospects who knows the problem by name, but they are not settled on a certain category of solution. So you send them to a video sales letter, you got the video there, and then they say, why will the best functional doctor? And they'll be like, I don't know if I need a functional doctor. I'm kind of looking at it, and they might be like curious about it. They might be like vaguely interested and kind of listen to the first few minutes of the video, but then you're going to start talking about how you're the best functional doctor out there and your success stories and all that other stuff. And they're going, well, I don't even know if I need a functional doctor yet. They're not sold on the concept of your solution. So you gotta hold their attention. You got to slow down the sales cycle, and you got to hold their attention long enough to where you can actually get to selling your solution yourself as a functional doctor or as whatever you're selling. But you got to sell them on the category first. They got to go, okay, all these other things I'm looking at, what I really need to do is hire a functional doctor. What I really need to do is a workout program. What I really need to do is a good yoga program, a good breathwork program, a good meditation. And then you sell them why you're the best person for that thing. Here's why I'm the best yoga instructor. Here's why I'm the best meditation instructor. Here's why I'm the best functional doctor. But if you come right out with that to a stage 2 person, and they've got all these other distractions that they're thinking about, well, it's not going to matter. But if you mention in the very beginning of it, they're still not going to be sold for the reason I just said. If you send them to a sales page, right, with a tripwire offer, what are they going to do on a sales page? They're going to whip through it. Right? They're going to kind of want to skip around and jump around. And that's important for the stage 3 prospect that we'll talk about in a second. But you don't want them doing that on a video sales letter, because you don't want them going, they're just trying to sell this. See the problem here. If you try to use a tripwire funnel on that type of prospect, a stage two prospect who is curious about how to solve the problem and they really have some desire to solve it, they're going to ghost you. They're going to leave, and you can retarget them all you want. It's not going to matter. So webinar funnels are for stage one, where they're only aware of the symptom. VSL funnels are best for stage two, where they're aware of the problem, but they're open to a bunch of different solutions. And that is the proper way to use those. Can you take a webinar funnel and sell a stage two prospect? Yeah, you could do that, but it's not going to be nearly as effective as a VSL. You're not going to do that $30 million VSL like the guy that I told you about a little bit ago. So those are the first two stages of awareness. Now, I want you to start thinking. Of course, everybody's different, right? You're going to probably say, well, all my people are in many different stages of awareness. Okay, figure out which stage you want to target with your ads. I can tell you right now that targeting stage one and stage two people will absolutely transform your business, because if they're that far out from a buying decision and you get on their radar earlier and you move them all the way to the point where they're sold on your category and they're pretty much sold on you, you've just shut everybody else out of the market and nobody can compete with you. And that's probably what's happening to you right now, is you're only selling like you're selling to a stage three person. And meanwhile, by the time they get to the point where they're ready to make a decision, there's somebody else that has been in their mind, in their attention block for longer. And guess who they're going to buy from? You're probably going to get on a sales call with that person. They're going to say, well, I'm also looking at this person. And they're going to end up going with that person, price shopping you against that person. It's really annoying. So you need to get on the radar of stage one or stage two earlier. And yes, if you're asking this, you can absolutely take a stage one person, move them all the way through all these stages on a single webinar or presentation and get them to buy at the end. And I've seen people do that and sell two $10,000 products. I've got a client right now who does a webinar. At the end of it, they do the call booking and they're selling a $5,000 program at the end of it. And they're selling a lot. So it does work, but only if you understand how to sell to a stage one, which is a topic for another video that I'll cover later. But the language and the progression of your entire message has to be different for a stage one than it is for a stage two. You're probably thinking, this just sounds too complicated. The people out there who tell you that there's a simple solution to scaling to 7 or 8 figures are only telling you that so you'll buy their thing. They're making it sound simple because they know it's going to make you want to buy it. Simple is fine if you're just trying to build a business that maybe covers your expenses. Simple is fine if you're changing a tire. Simple is fine if you're baking a cake. It's not effective in solving a complex problem, right? All the things that we enjoy in our society right now, the amazing things that have radically transformed our lives, they're all complicated under the hood. A car is complicated. The space shuttle is complicated. The refrigerator is complicated. A washer and dryer machine is complicated. An air conditioner system is complicated. We don't actually know how to make them work. We can't fix them. We can't build them, but we enjoy the benefits as a consumer. So simplicity is fine if you only want to be a consumer. But if you want to be the person who's actually selling the solution to people, you got to be ready to embrace complexity. And that's why I'm not afraid of telling people my solution is not simple, but I know it works. And anyone who tells you that building a 7 or 8 figure business is simple is just telling you what you want to hear so that you'll buy their stuff. Stop buying those people's stuff. The simple plug and play, copy and paste funnel that always works every time, they're just telling you what you want to hear. So yes, this is complicated, but man, once you get it, the rewards are amazing. In fact, I'll get to the next stages in just a second, but the guy who I always talk about, who was one of the first readers of my book, The Anti-Fragile Sales System, had an agency making $500,000 a year and grew it to $8 million a year in 18 months. He read my book 3 times, applied everything in it. He was a Marine. He had a very disciplined mind, and he completely embraced the complexity of it and applied it, and it changed his life. So don't be afraid of complexity. Be afraid of your impulse to apply simple solutions to complex problems, because you're going to end up a consumer and not a producer, not a creator, not an earner, not the type of entrepreneur that really gets to enjoy an amazing lifestyle. So the third stage, we talked about stage one and stage two. Stage one is people who are only aware of the symptoms, but the symptoms are getting worse. That's a live funnel, webinar funnel, whatever you want to call it. Stage two is people who are aware of the problem, may even know the name of it, and are actively looking for solutions, but they're not sold on the specific category of solution that you offer. That's a stage two. That's a video sales letter funnel. Stage three is where most people market. And that's a person who is looking for a product or service in your specific category. In other words, they're looking for an acupuncturist. They're looking for a functional doctor. They're looking for a marketing coach. They're looking for a copywriter. They're looking for the category of solution that you belong to. They may even be Googling it. They may even like be trying to figure out, how do I tell who's a good one and who's not? And the biggest mistake I see in people selling high ticket services and products is they only know how to market to this stage. They only talk like they're marketing to someone in that stage. And they wonder why it is that it feels so competitive, and they feel like they have to keep selling, telling, explaining. They got people comparing them to competitors and price shopping them. That is a very crowded market, is people selling to stage three, right? If you're a life insurance salesperson, you got a bunch of life insurance salesperson trying to sell them. People who buy life insurance will progress through stage one and stage two. And if you catch them earlier in the buying cycle, that's how you build a pipeline that just rewards you with all kinds of sales, laydowns from people who have no objections, no price resistance, aren't comparing you to competitors because you're the only person they're thinking about by the time they get to stage three, because you got on their radar early. So a tripwire funnel is only for people. Now you can do a tripwire, right, that goes to a call booking. Like maybe you have them buy a very low ticket product, and in order to get the product or customize the product or whatever, they get on a call with you. That's a tripwire to a call booking. I do not recommend doing call booking funnels where the person just books a free call. Okay, my agency does that very, very effectively, but it's so hard to get that working that I don't recommend you do it unless you have our help. I know that sounds like a sales pitch, but those call booking funnels that go to a free call, they're such a drain on your time because of the no shows, the follow ups, and not only that, people who show up on those calls, they're almost guaranteed to price shop you against competitors. It's just frustrating, and it bottlenecks your business. There's a right way to do the call booking sell. Okay. You start with a webinar, get them on a call booking, you do a VSL to a call booking, right? You think in terms of these other funnels, but a stage three person is sold on the type of solution you offer. And so what you want to do is you want to sell them something. I don't care if it's just like a diagnostic package. Don't do this free consultation stuff. Okay. That's the best way to make yourself look low value. You need to charge for the first meeting and actually deliver something that maybe gives them a little relief from the symptoms, maybe educates them better, but it gives them something that gives them a little bit of value, so that when they get on the call with you, you can actually move them from stage three to where they're closed. Now, I hope you're starting to see why you can't do this with a stage one or a stage two customer. They're not even going to book the call. And if they do, they're going to no show it because they know you're trying to sell them something. They're still way out. They need a webinar first, they need a VSL first. And if you can get them in your message all the way to stage three to where they go, okay, this is the type of solution I'm looking for. Now I just need to know the best person who offers it. This is where they're comparing you to direct competitors. And this is where you sell them something that's either less than $100 or maybe a couple $100, depending on the industry you're in. They buy that, and then after that, there is either an upsell for the next thing, or maybe you, through the product itself that you sell them, you upsell them on other things. That's how you make money with a tripwire funnel for stage three prospects. Here's the secret that a lot of people don't know. If stage three is the appropriate stage for cold traffic, and you're doing a tripwire funnel where they're buying a low ticket offer and then you're upselling them or call booking them from there, you will not make money on the first purchase. And that's where a lot of people get lost. They turn the funnel off because it didn't make them any money, but it's not supposed to. It's supposed to get the first purchase. And then your job on the back end is to upsell them. I've seen people absolutely burn down their businesses by not understanding that one thing. The purpose of a stage three funnel, a tripwire funnel, whether it goes to a low ticket product to an upsell of another bigger product or a call booking, the purpose of it is not to make money. It's to get a purchase, to get a customer so you can upgrade them to the next thing or get them on a booking or whatever it is. And I have seen people turn products that were less than $100 into $100,000 program sales using this type of funnel. It does work. Okay. But you got to do it the right way. And I don't have time to get into details of what you do in each funnel, what steps they are, how to troubleshoot them. But that's the third type, is a stage three prospect. They're sold on the category of your solution, but they're shopping you against competitors. And there's actually 3 points you need to hit on a tripwire funnel that if you don't hit them, you're either not going to make many sales or you're not going to make any at all. Now, the fourth stage is where they've decided it's you they're going to buy from. Like maybe the competitors, like they're okay. I know this is the one person whose program I want to enroll in. This is the one product I want to buy, but they haven't given you the money yet. It's that person who's like, well, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it when blah blah blah. They got some reason why they're not doing it. That's a stage four. They're sold on you, not just on your category, but on you. And that's where you do a retargeting funnel. These people who do these retargeting funnels to people who aren't all the way at that stage are wasting money. This is one of the biggest mistakes you make when trying to scale paid ads is you retarget people who maybe went to your sales page and left, or maybe went to the first minute of your VSL and left. They're still in stage one or stage two, and you're trying to sell them like they're a stage four, trying to overcome the last minute resistance. Basically, all you're doing is putting it in front of them again and being obnoxious. Right there, you got to understand: have you moved their awareness at all? And if you've moved it to stage four, and there are ways you can tell this by looking at your measurement tools, then yeah, you go ahead and retarget them. And there's a certain type of page you need for retargeting, but you don't use a retargeting funnel on somebody unless they're in stage four. And yes, there is a way to know that by looking at your metrics. Now, are you starting to see why there's so much confusion about sales funnels? Do they still work in 2026? Hell yeah, they do. They will always work. But the only people who make them work are the people who either do this by accident. In other words, they're doing the very thing that I'm teaching here, but they don't know that's what they're actually doing. They just happen to like hit the right funnel for the right audience and boom, they're making all kinds of money. Or they're one of my clients and they know about this, and I promise you they are not going to tell you. they they don't want you to know because they don't want the secret being out there. I'm a teacher and a coach. It's my job to educate people, and I also know I'm not afraid of everybody knowing about this because I know very few people are going to act on it. If you're the type of person who's really ready to get these types of results, we need to figure out what type of funnel is appropriate for your business. And I can do that on a 1 hour call if you want to. If you're interested in that, contact me on Instagram or on Facebook. Just send me a direct message. Tell me a little bit about your business. And I wasn't going to do this, but I'll go ahead and offer it. I don't have any openings coming like right this week, but I can squeeze something in for maybe the week after or the week after that. Or if you have a funnel that has scaled to a certain point and you're trying to spend more on it and it's just stuck, I can get you unstuck. If you have a funnel that's dead, I revive dead funnels all the time. And that's where I want to talk about the last thing I want to talk about today. But the takeaway for everything I just said is ask yourself, which stage of awareness are most of my cold audience in? Are they only aware of the symptoms but not the problem? Are they aware of the problem and looking for solutions but not a solution like mine? Are they aware of the problem? They've decided that a certain type of solution is appropriate and they settled on the category of solution I belong to. That's a stage three. Or is this someone who has been all the way to my checkout page, started to fill it out, maybe did the first step of the checkout form, and they just didn't come back and I need to retarget them? If they're in the first stage, webinar or live funnel, if they're in the second stage, VSL funnel, if they're in the third stage, tripwire funnel, if they're in the fourth stage, retargeting funnel. And I teach people how to build all these in my book, The Anti-Fragile Sales System, right? If you can't work with me or join my group coaching program or work with me one-on-one and you just want to take a deep dive into this, go to Amazon, find my book, The Anti-Fragile Sales System. It'll teach you all this stuff, tell you which funnel to build and tell you step by step every single thing you need to say, right down to the sentences to say, when to say them. And my framework can apply to any industry, any audience. I've pressure tested it in thousands of businesses, okay? It works. I want to talk about the second reason, and this is actually the most important, most misunderstood reason most funnels don't work. And I'm going to start with an analogy. Imagine you go outside tomorrow and your car won't start. Your car that has worked fine for years or maybe months, it won't start. You just turn the key and it does nothing. What would you do? Would you replace the car? Would you say this type of car doesn't work anymore? Or would you take it to a mechanic who can open the hood, troubleshoot it, get his instruments, find the one little part that's missing or broken, or maybe it's a big part, right? But they can fix it and they can get the thing running again. If you've picked the right funnel, which we just talked about how to do that, and you're still not getting results, or your funnel is still broken and can't scale, I can tell you, I know exactly what you're doing wrong. You're changing and fixing the wrong part on your car, metaphorically speaking. You're fixing the wrong thing in the funnel. I had a guy he was one of my 7-figure clients. He got from 6 to 7 figures working with me. He had a funnel that was working fine. I think it was making him something like 700,000 a year or something like that. He came to me one time. He hadn't talked to me in a couple months because that's what happens when clients do really well. They stop talking to you like, I'm good. And then something breaks and they come back to you. But he came back to me. He said, Seth, I want to change the messaging on my ads. I always troubleshoot. By the way, that's the secret. That's the one reason why most funnels don't work is people don't know how to troubleshoot a funnel. Listen, your funnel's not. I'll finish the story in a second. Your funnel is not going to work in the beginning. It's probably going to lose you money, or it may work and stop working. And if you don't know how to zero in on the very specific action step within that complicated funnel where you lost the person or you didn't do what you needed to do, you're going to end up fixing a bunch of stuff that doesn't need to be fixed, and every fix is just going to take down the effectiveness of it because you're fixing things that were probably working well. Think about it again like the car, right? Say there's one little part on your car that's broken, but instead of fixing that, you fix something else. This is what most people do with their sales funnels is they don't know which part to fix. This is where math and psychology come down. These are the only two things you need to understand about marketing is math and psychology. Math, measurement, KPIs, which is the boring, non-sexy part of marketing that most people don't like to do, and that's why they're stuck, will tell you exactly. And I talk about this in chapter 12 of my book, The Anti-Fragile Sales System. It helps me zero in on the exact little, even a space on your sales page, a 30-second space within your video, within your webinar. I'll tell you exactly what's broken. And sometimes it's only one thing in the entire funnel that's broken. And once you fix that, boom, it's working. But if you don't know your KPIs and which KPIs are important and how to read them, you're not going to know where it is. And you're going to fix a bunch of stuff that's not broken, like this guy I'm about to tell you about. Now, the question is, once you get to that point, you find what's broken, how do you fix it the right way? That's another big mistake that I'll wrap up with in a second here. But let me tell you this story about this guy. So he came to me, his funnel's making, I think like maybe like high 600, $700,000 a year. It was just him and like a couple of people. It was a very lean business. He loved what he was doing. He was only working like 30 hours a week remotely. I mean, he had it made. And he said, I want to change the messaging on my ads. And I didn't change the messaging on his ads. I started asking questions. I started asking questions about his numbers, his KPIs. And you know what I figured out? I figured out his salesperson was burnt out, didn't like the job anymore, but hadn't told the guy yet. And he was just basically wasn't doing any more of the things that had made him successful in selling on the phone. And long story short, he ended up getting rid of that salesperson, replacing the salesperson. We didn't change a damn thing in the funnel, and boom, it's working again. Now, imagine what would have happened to that guy's business if I had been an amateur coach who had just changed the wording on the ads and tried to guess and come up with some silly theory about what needed to change instead of asking questions and being the expert mechanic who zero ins on the part that's broken. He would have burned down his business. And I've seen many people do this. It's very sad. They build businesses that are making seven, sometimes six, sometimes seven figures. The funnel's working, it stops working, and they fix the wrong thing, and they end up breaking one thing that worked, and then they try to fix another thing, but that thing was actually working. It was something else that was broken, and then they break that, and the funnel just slowly like dissolves. It's very sad. Their whole business flickers out like a candle because they didn't know what to fix. So math, measurement, KPIs, which I unpack in chapter 12 of my book, The Anti-Fragile Sales System, is how I figure out what part of the funnel is broken. And psychology is how I fix it. Psychology meaning that there is some psychological principle you violated at that part of your funnel. Now the principle is going to be different depending on where in your funnel it is, how deep it is. But I have a 4-step process that I move people through where I look at it and I go, okay, at the top of the funnel, here's what we need to do. If the top of the funnel is broken, we didn't do this well enough. I'll apply this psychological principle. Or if it's sort of like near like they've clicked through, maybe they've gone a little bit into the sales page, there's a second persuasion principle that I teach. And if you didn't do that, I know exactly what you didn't do because I know the spot in your funnel or in your webinar, your VSL, whatever it is, where they dropped off. And there are tools that can help you do this. They do exist. A lot of them are free. And I say, okay, well, this means we didn't apply this psychological principle. And there's not anybody in the world who has boiled this down to such precise a science as I have. There's nobody that I know of. Maybe they're out there and I've never heard of them, but there's nobody else that I know that can do this. But it all comes back to those stages of awareness, to circle back to the beginning, because how can you know, let's say one part of your webinar or VSL or Tripwire or retargeting funnel is broken, or maybe your ads stopped working when you scaled them. And you're thinking, it's my CPM's too high. My CPM, trying to lower your CPM to scale your ads is the most foolish thing you can do. That is not how you do it. You got to suffer the high CPMs and you got to do other things in your funnel that more than make up for it, right? I just dropped a wisdom bomb on you right there. If you're trying to manage CPMs to scale your ads higher, I guarantee you are shooting yourself directly in the foot, or probably not the foot, probably somewhere else. I mean, it's really bad. I've seen people burn down funnels that way. I've seen people get funnels stuck that way. My point is that once you understand these stages of awareness, now not only have you picked the right funnel, but you can use your KPIs, your measurement tools to zero in on the very spot within your message where you lost the person. And that's where my second framework comes in, where I have a step by step strategy that goes from grabbing a person's attention, transforming attention into interest, interest into desire, desire into trust, and trust into action. That's the sequence a person moves through as they move through your messaging. They don't go right from never having heard of you to buy. You got to progress them from attention to interest. If you get attention and you start immediately trying to build trust, but you don't do the interest part, you won't get many sales, or you might get a few and you'll get a lot of refunds, but you won't really be able to scale your business. If you do the attention part, if you don't do the attention, you don't get anything. Or you can also get attention the wrong way. Or if you do attention and interest, but you don't build desire, and you go immediately to building trust, you're going to get a lot of people who are going to get all the way to the end of your buying cycle and not buying anything. You'll get a trickle of sales here and there, but you got to do all five of these things in order. And there's a very specific set of psychological principles that you can leverage in your messaging to make this work. And my framework can be adapted to any audience, any type of offer. I don't care who it is, because it's based on the principles of human psychology. It's not based on trends. It's not based on technology. It's not one of these dumb ideas like this works on LinkedIn, but not on Twitter. This works on YouTube, but not on billboards. When you learn psychology based on human biology, based on the human nervous system, based on the way we process language and metaphor, all the things that I teach in my framework, then not only are you going to get better results, but you can apply my principles anywhere, no matter where you're marketing, no matter you're online, offline, YouTube, TikTok, short term, long term. I don't care. Right? Anyone who tells you that things dramatically change because you're on this different platform does not know what the hell they're talking about. You need a framework that's actually based on the timeless principles of human psychology and biology. And that's what these 4 steps do. Now, there's a lot of little detail in here, and that's why I have all these books on persuasion. I have the anti-fragile sales system, sales sorcery. I mean, I got lists and lists of books I can give you, but I don't want to overwhelm you. First thing you got to decide is what type of funnel is best for my business. And the second thing is you got to understand is that troubleshooting is the way to turn a funnel into a 7-figure earner. Now, the troubleshooting part, please don't try to do that on your own, right? If your funnel's stuck at a certain point or it's starting to make a little bit money and you know it's almost there, we need to talk, right? You need to get in my group coaching program. And within a couple minutes, I can not only tell you what's wrong, I can use it as a teaching opportunity for the other people on the call so they can learn too. And I guarantee you, I'll find the problem. I am one. In fact, if if you have a funnel, I'll make you a bet right here. If you have a funnel and I cannot figure out if I can't tell you what the problem is and what you need to fix, I'll pay you $500, right? You got to join my group coaching first. And so the $500 will more than make up for the refund. But if you're really ready to get a funnel working, I would say don't try to learn troubleshooting on your own. It's taken me decades to learn it. Just get with me. We can work one-on-one. I have a waiting list for one-on-one, or you can join my group coaching program. Okay. Just contact me on social media. I got to screen you a little bit and make sure that you're ready for it, but that's what you need to do. But bottom line, you need to figure out what type of funnel is appropriate for the stage of awareness that most of your prospects are in. And I guarantee it's one of them. And you're probably getting it wrong right now. And that's probably why you're struggling. And the second thing you got to do is learn funnel troubleshooting, which is an application of math and psychology. I talk about this in my book, The Anti-Fragile Sales System. If you just want to go into the book and try to do all this yourself, go to Amazon. I reveal everything in there. It's not everything I know, but everything you need to know about this topic. So the question, do sales funnels still work in 2026? They don't work for most people because most people don't know this. And the people who are getting their funnels to work are either in one of 2 categories. They're either a person with a lot of name recognition, a lot of brand recognition, like Russell Brunson or Gary Vaynerchuk or all these guys who they're getting away with being a little loose on their marketing because of the fact that everyone knows who they are. They got this tremendous brand power. That's why I tell people don't copy Amazon or billion-dollar companies and market the way they do. They can get away with that because they have brand power. So a lot of those people, their funnel's working because of who they are, right? But that's not how they got where they are. The second type of people are people who just happen to, by luck, nail the right funnel, the right messaging strategy. They got all these little moving parts that I'm talking about. They just got them right. But that person, I guarantee, and this happened to someone recently who's making about $400,000 a month online. You don't see your ads anymore, and I know why. I'm not going to say who it is because it would be kind of mean. But she didn't know how to troubleshoot. And the funnel that was making her a ton of money stopped working. She don't know what to do now. She don't know how to fix it. Yeah. And my daddy say, you don't know how to fix it, just go in the junkyard with all that other junk. Like that's what my daddy used to say. You gotta know how to fix something. So anyway, anyway, the second thing is troubleshooting, figuring out how to fix your funnel. You can learn that on your own. It's in my book, The Anti-Fragile Sales System, or we can get in touch. I can help you get there a lot quicker. Depends how fast you want to do it. You want to do a bunch of trial and error and watching a bunch of YouTube videos and trying to figure out what I'm saying, or do you want to go directly upstream to the source? That's why I do these calls, is to educate people. So get out there, pick the right funnel. And if you've already got, like Seth, I've got the right funnel, I don't know how to troubleshoot it, get in contact with me or get my book, The Anti-Fragile Sales System.